internet for like some cool images. And I saw this. It was like, who cares? And it's crazy how nutty some of us are, and how I would also say impassioned so many of us are to come here on Thursday and also Friday, not only to learn a lot of cool stuff, because we are going to learn a lot of cool stuff, but to also collaborate with one another and also hopefully gain a few extra pieces of knowledge that you guys can apply to your classroom. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. I'm really, really excited for what's going to happen. So I'm just going to go right into it, because my goal is to talk the least amount possible, because you guys have heard me speak and there are other people here who are going to be here to engage you. So a few little housekeeping things. There is a manila folder in the back, and the manila folder has things like the agenda for both today and tomorrow. It also has your timesheet, which is always good to make sure you guys have filled out, and I will collect the timesheet tomorrow. And it also has a few handouts for the meeting today. So I'm just gonna hop right in, and we're gonna talk about who cares in a little bit. So if you guys are looking for internet, the internet connection is Campus Guest. Hi from SUHSD. And I'm kind of proud of myself because we have a canvas. And I actually updated the canvas. So if you go into the canvas and into intense or the fall intensive, go into canvas, go into the modules, and you will see all the links to each of the handouts that I have so far in there. So that's kind of fun. So if you guys still need that, great. If not, I could put that up in a little bit. So, is it working? Is it working? There we go. So, goals for today. Because who wants to hear me talk for a long time? One, yay. But here, this has now been 9 weeks. And now the 9 weeks, you also have the summer to really learn about some of the engineering practices and phenomena. So over the course of these 2 days, we're gonna have a chance to reflect on what's going on. Today is all about hands-on, about technology, about going over to the Fleet or the Living Coast. So it's gonna be about opening up your mind. But tomorrow, this is when you guys are gonna be able to showcase some of the work that your subject areas have done. So I wanna just really briefly talk about what's gonna happen for that. So tomorrow, you guys heard me mention we're gonna have a bit of a gallery walk. So tomorrow what's gonna happen is some of the equipment that you guys purchased and the lessons that you have that go along with it, I'm gonna kind of explain the process, the procedure to make sure that we have that all ready and in place. So tomorrow, what your subject area group will do, you guys are gonna bring one or an example lab setup. And if you could print a copy of the 5E lesson plans and also the activity sheets that go along with it, just in one package, so you could share with the other people in this grant as they kind of go around for about an hour. So you have about 30 minutes of setup, about an hour to walk along with everybody else to see what people are planning, and then some time to work together as a group. So if you guys were wondering, where is my vernier equipment? The vernier equipment is right back there, a whole lot of it. So for the leads who may need it or for their demonstrations, we could get into those tomorrow or later today. You guys get? Other thing is, today is all about incorporating technology. Thanks to some of our experts, we're gonna learn about how to 3D print in a science classroom in all subject areas. And you don't have to be a science nerd to do that, because I do not know how to 3D print. My daughter wants me to get a 3D printer, and it will just sit there because I have no idea how to use it. But after today, I will know. And we're also going to learn how to code in the science classroom, which is exciting. And looking at some technology with how to find some phenomena. And we're also tomorrow going to train other teachers how to use the equipment. So here's the agenda overview. Icebreaker with phenomena. Keynote from Tom Davis. He should be coming by here a little bit later. He is actually a consultant who specifically works on technology, teaching and learning. So how to incorporate technology into your teaching and learning. And also 3D printing and coding, and lunch on your own. So lunch is going to be from 11:30 to 12:30, but here's what I want you guys to get in your mind. We have 2 different sites today. One, I am recommending the life science go to the Living Coast. You don't have to if you want to go to the fleet. Or in the physical sciences, go to the fleet. I'll give you a quick overview. So just know there is a sign up in the back that is either for the Living Coast or the fleet. They have a maximum of 40 each. So if you're able to sign up in the back of where you're going to go, that would be awesome, so I could make sure we don't have too many. So before your next activity. So who cares? I was thinking a lot about this first semester and about phenomena and how it's been incorporated. And as I was preparing for today, I kind of was thinking, what gets my students to care? And I don't know if they do, but there's a lot of things going on in the world. And I thought about the Flint water crisis that's been going on. That's one of the classic pictures from Flint. Some stuff about the Flint crisis and lead poisoning. I thought to myself, what a great science lesson to talk about the fall of humanity. But at the same time, looking at how a specific chemical that you add into the water prevents the leaching of lead. Or you can talk about how lead, if you're a chemistry teacher or a biology teacher, affects the brain. Or the bee colony collapse disorder. How right now, these are all the different states that are experiencing bee collapse. And you can talk about that in the biology world. How is this going to affect our ecosystems? How is this going to affect our industry? What environmental factors might be involved? And there's a lot of cool research there. I was also thinking about the drought in California. This is probably one of the most drastic pictures of lake. It's somewhere, I forgot where this is, but this is 2011, 2014. Other phenomena that you can kind of find online about climate change. Zika virus spread. This is actually a kid that was born with the Zika virus. And the spread, which is kind of interesting because it's already in Florida, it's probably going to be in California. The reason I bring up all these pictures is when I was a science classroom teacher, the thing I always asked my students was, who cares? Why are we learning about this? Why do you need to know about genetics? Why do you need to know about Punnett squares? Why do you need to know about stoichiometry? And in today's world, there are so many different topics that I see that we could talk about each of our issues. And the beauty about the next generation science standards is that we can really touch upon each of these things and also go into the global issues like how Roundup is one of the main partners with genetic engineering, which is not a bad thing if you're genetically engineering all your food, if you're considering all the people who are going hungry in the world. So it's a great, interesting debate. Other topics, eutrophication of streams, Pacific garbage patch, which one of the groups have already touched upon. So there's a lot of interesting topics that you guys could go to. But for today, I want to make sure you guys are a little bit more active, and me talking less, but I wanted to introduce Miss Cynthia Sistic Chandler. She did a presentation over the summer, and she is going to help you guys get a little bit active. Hopefully you guys have your computers out and ready, because we have Cynthia who's going to lead us in an activity.
Yay, and it's a prerequisite that you use technology. Yay! Yay! Okay, so if you don't have some technology, you're going to definitely buddy up with someone who does have some. And Tony introduced the website that you have for.
You couldn't hear me? Oh, because you're being recorded. Yes, the recording. Okay, so let me go ahead and change over to my slides here, Tony.
I should have done that.
Okay, thanks. So let me tell you a little bit about what's on your table. Everybody should have a Finding Dory memory card. No disrespect about whether you need to work on your memory skills or not, but play this with a 3-year-old and they'll probably give you a run for their money, right? These are going to be cards that you're going to match up with someone else. So if you are the shark, raise your hand. If you're the shark, raise your hand. You're a shark too. Okay, so all sharks are going to be working together to find Dory. No, actually, you're going to find phenomenon. So that's how this is going to work this morning. And of course, there are some other animals. There's Dory, there's Nemo, and some of the other great characters, right? And here's the Finding Nemo or the Finding Dory soundtrack, and it doesn't seem like it's up high enough. Is that setting the tone? Is there phenomenon under the ocean? What about the phenomenon of the whale and how it cries? Okay, so good morning everyone again. So we're going to have a chance to find some phenomenon this morning. And we know that it's a hard word for some kids to say. So if they have trouble finding phenomenon, well, they won't have trouble finding phenomenon. They're going to have trouble saying it probably. And what we need to think about when we think about phenomenon is like, how am I going to find a phenomenon? What am I going to look for? Well, Tony did a great job of giving us a little sneak preview of what that phenomenon looks like. Is it visual? Is it data? He showed a lot of infographics which really combine both and show some statistical relevance to what's happening when we talk about phenomenon. So what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it act like? And there is a googly website on all of our pages today. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this paper here. Not only is it coloring, a coloring page, but if you think about phenomenon and what's happening in the digital world, I have a coloring book that this came from, and this is a 3D coloring book. So it's a flat page. You are going to go to colorandplaybooks.com, and these animals are going to jump out at you from a coloring book. Okay, so that is a phenomenon in itself, using augmented reality and the kinds of technologies that can really have people immerse in virtual reality and the kinds of things that help make those phenomenon caring, that we care about it. We're passionate about it, right? Okay, so Tony, how come this isn't working here? Okay, so we can't have a lesson without an essential question. And by the way, we only have about 30 minutes to complete this activity. You are going to be looking for phenomenon, and we're going to be sharing it as well. So you're going to create your own phenomenal lesson using phenomenal resources that exemplify the phenomenon and connect the DCIs you are studying. So everybody, I want you to pause just for a second and think about the DCIs that you're studying in the next couple of weeks. Okay? How do you have a picture of it? All right. And here is our goal: to identify, discover, connect, and archive. Key word, archive. Well, you have this wonderful learning management system. Well, sometimes you think it may not be, but it really, really is, because it's a place where you can upload and deposit all of these great resources. It's not staying in your file cabinet anymore. It's not staying in your Google file anymore. You are going to be working on creating resources that you'll share with each other. So we're going to use the digital resources, or we're using digital resources to find phenomenon from vetted websites and organizations. And we're going to continue to have those. What are some of the, FET. FET is one of them that we've looked at before. And other types of all of the NGSS stuff is phenomenal. All right, we're going to align resources to DCIs and NGSS, and then we're going to have the digital archive. So on everybody's desk, you have, you know what this is called? It's a QR code. How many of you are using these in your classroom? For walkabouts and field trips, virtual field trips throughout your classroom, and when I taught elementary, we certainly had a lot of stations. These are great for stations. Well, if you don't have a QR reader on your smartphone or on your iPad, if you have one, it's one of the things that you may want to take a look at and challenge yourself to work with, because it takes you right to one specific website. So you don't have students Googling and looking for specific things, specific phenomenon, just by doing, you know, open searches on the web. That's not very it's too time consuming and it's not fun, especially when you're lost on the internet. So here we go. We have a lesson document that the Googly, the GOO.GL. I was going to do TinyURL, but TinyURL I think is blocked in this district. And then we have, so we have one for middle school and one for high school. Raise your hand if you're middle school. Middle. Okay. And raise your hand if you're high school, I guess the other group. Okay. So we all know who we are. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do a little cross-pollination between our different groups. So what are we going to find? We're going to find phenomenon, we're going to find resource. We're going to identify the type of resource and the link to that resource. So this will take us a couple of minutes because you want to find just the right graphic. You want to find just the right infographic. You want to find just the right video. And typically, what do? You either Google it, and then you're there for 3.5 hours looking for one piece of a phenomenal puzzle that you have that is, it takes you that long to find. The other thing too is I want you to credit yourself. So if you are with 2 other people or 3 other people, make sure that you credit yourself on finding finding that resource, okay? All right, so we're gonna get started in just a minute here. We are gonna fill it in, but hold on just a second. You do it on, you put the Googly in on your computer. Yeah, Googly is, you have to be very, very specific, okay? So thank you. You gave me a heart attack, man. We didn't find it. All right, so you're gonna find your matching memory card, your partner, in just a second. You're gonna locate the Google Sheet, and I'm gonna show it to you in just a second. You're going to review columns A, B, C, and you're going to review thinking about what you're teaching. You're going to find the phenomenon. You're going to document it on the Google Sheet, and then you're going to share information for all and fill in all the information for all the columns. Okay, so this is what the sheet looks like if you haven't accessed it already. And by the way, this particular sheet was originally designed by, and we're not having the same image here, so let me. Is there anyone who has already, it's still not showing.
It's an extend screen.
Okay. So if you have found the Google spreadsheet, raise your hand, please. All right. So you see that it's arranged in columns. Now, if you have an iPad and you're not able to edit the document, you're going to have to download Google Slides, or I'm sorry, Google Spreadsheets, the app that's free. Okay? So if you're having that trouble, I'm going to come around and help you with that. Can you do it in Chrome? Yeah, it's on Google Play. Yeah, you should be able to. Yeah. All right, now the middle school phenomenon, you have one that's a little bit more filled out because the group that was working on this particular middle school phenomenon chart or spreadsheet has the column A, which is, and it looks like the, it's not here. I guess I can only have it in one place. All right, so we have the PE, which we know that the architecture of that is, MS-PS 1 through 2, et cetera, et cetera. The phenomenon is listed in column C, and then thinking about those essential questions that you can then transfer. Sometimes you might prompt your phenomenon by those essential questions. And if we look at, Tony, I'm sorry, I'm going to need your help because I'm not finding the other spreadsheet here, and I'm not able to see it. It looks like a lot of people are in, so that's great. All right, if we scroll over, yeah, I can't see it. If we scroll over, we're also going to have the type of resource. Is it a video? Is it a graphic? Is it a website? Is it a game? There are lots of games that get popped up, especially in, thank you. Okay. So this sheet has already been populated quite a bit, and here's the original contributor, and here's the corrosion of metals, the chemistry of the journey of the Fuse School. If I click on that, this is corrosion, a small YouTube video, a short YouTube video. Okay, so everybody think you get the picture? What we're going to do is we're going to continue to, and if you see a DCI or you see some concepts that may need to have an additional row, what are we going to do? How are we going to do that? We're going to go in, we're going to go to the sheet, and we're going to say insert, and we're going to say row below, and then we'll go ahead and fill in that full line with all of that detail. So you're going to have about 15 minutes to look for your phenomenon. First, we're going to find our partner. Then we're going to think about something we're teaching in the next couple of weeks. We're going to find a resource, and what I would suggest when you Google, or if you go to a vetted resource that you know of, it could be maybe it's Bill Nye Science Guy, places that you are comfortable with, that you've been to before. What you'll do is just navigate to that website, put it in the Google section, in the Google URL, and go ahead and find it. Keywords. What kind of keywords do we want to use when we search? If we're not using advanced search of Google, what are we going to use? We're going to absolutely use the word phenomenon, and sometimes it's listed and sometimes it's not. What else? NGSS, that's great. And I do have some prizes for people. Here's code.org. Here we go, NGSS. And here's a code.org clipboard for you. Thank you for active participation. So we're going to go ahead and do row above or row below, and everyone will succeed. Everyone will win. Everyone will have a little pen and a stylus from San Diego Q.org in the back table. All right, everybody ready to go? Remember, you need to find your partners, and you're going to work together. And there is a match. Everybody has a match. Okay, questions? 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 Yes. you're both going to work together. You're just going to work together. Two heads are better than one. You can share ideas, but you can each put in an entry. So did everyone hear Leangela? Everyone hear her? Okay, she said, what if my partner, who is, what animal are you? You're the beluga whale? Are you the beluga whale? Or the octopus, okay. If you're a beluga whale with an octopus, raise your hand. And if you teach physics and they teach chemistry, what are you going to do? Would there be any cross-cutting concepts? Maybe, okay. Or you're just going to brainstorm with each other and you're going to at least have one entry. You can have more than one. How many of you actually did some exploration with the links that were embedded on the Google Sheets? I think somebody was looking at the roller coaster, the other one was looking at the phenomenon of the ladies in the back. You were talking about chimpanzees and why they only have 4 digits, or spider monkeys. Hello? Friends in the back on the couch with the monkeys? You two ladies? Yes. Yes. So, new phenomenon that you put into the spreadsheet. We have high school who did that. Sharing. Okay. Yes, tell us what you did.
It's under evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I just came back from Costa Rica and I found out that spider monkeys only have 4 fingers, whereas the rest of the primates, their thumb is vestigial.
Okay, so she said that she just came back from Costa Rica and she found out that spider monkeys only have 4 fingers. So this is in terms of evolution, and that you could start out with a question, either why or how, or using one of those essential questions to dive further into your inquiry. So you get for helping, you get this is a poster from the Better Together Summit, the Teacher Summit we just had, to help students separate science from fact from science fiction. You're welcome. Okay, other comments, questions about the activity? I know a couple people had some difficulty, and that is because you need to download either from Google Play or from the iStore. You need to have the Google Sheets loaded. If you're still having trouble, you just might have some kind of a glitch, and we can work on that later. Okay, it's a new phenomenon that you found that you had a chance to discover in just 10 or 15 minutes. If you're working together collaboratively, look at all the ones that we've populated. Yes?
I have one that we're doing Newton's laws, and so I found a video. We're doing it Newton's laws next, and so I found a video about car crashes and basic physics, and it goes into not only why people need to wear seatbelts, but the force and mass and acceleration that's involved.
Thank you. So it's a video, so she labeled it as V. Did you give yourself credit for finding it? Okay. In the set, well, we want to do this because we want to make sure that we can, if there's someone who has an excellent resource and we don't know that this resource ever existed, then we can always contact them. We can email them through the district and find out maybe they have more resources other than what they've posted in the spreadsheet, right? Okay. Would you like a code.org water bottle or a grocery bag? I guess it is. All right. So this concludes our lesson. Find some phenomenon and have fun with it. And a couple of the places that you can find those interesting phenomenon is, I have a book, and it's called, yes, it is a book, How Do They Do That? And it's Wonders of the Modern World Explained. Now, there is a digital version of this as well. Anyone ever go to How Stuff Works or How Things Work? Great place to find phenomenon. Another place is, believe it or not, Ripley's Believe It or Not. There's some corny things there, but they are really fun, and they really tickle those middle schools, their funny bones. So thanks everyone for participating. We got some great work done. In terms of making a copy, some of you brought to my attention that in the lesson, that lesson page is there so that you can take this activity back to your schools. Now, because we're all working together, and a couple of us might have been in different disciplines and things, what we wanted to do was to give you an experience with working collaboratively with this Google Sheets. So the next step is to take this document, make a copy, probably best if you are at a desktop. You're going to make a copy and put it in your own Google Drive so that you can rename it and make it your own. Okay, yes?
You can also add you can put the same document into 2 different places using Shift-Z.
Shift-Z, okay, and you get a grocery bag. Thank you for that tip. Yes.
You can also work on it and you can have it.
Yes. The other thing that you can do is you can add a tab. So spreadsheets are really very robust places for you to deposit things. I put everything in a spreadsheet, really. All right, thank you, and have a good rest of the day. I'm going to be here to answer questions, and I'll have that link to go to the interactive coloring book where it's going to jump, Dory's going to jump out at you. Okay, thanks.
There's a phrase that I'm reminded of when I first saw you guys go up and start finding your partner, the great thing about an icebreaker is it forces you to get around and hopefully meet new people, which hopefully you guys did, because there are 72 people in this grant, and a lot of us are here today, so hopefully you met somebody new. And there's a phrase, I think Dr. Janney has been using it a lot, alone we could do so little, but together we could do so much. And with technology, we're able to really communicate and really get ideas across so much better, so much faster than we have before. And so thank you for doing that. I think it's going to be a great resource for us as we try to find phenomena. And I want to introduce the next person really quick, but let me move this over to a different presentation, and let me get to the right one. So, well, I don't have the slide for him, but I'll say, so about 3 weeks ago, I met for another grant that we're going to try to write. It's another STEM STEAM grant that should hopefully involve math, science, and also computer science. And as we were trying to brainstorm this grant, we invited a lot of people from different universities, business partners, and I also had an opportunity to meet Tom Davis, who is a person who's done a lot with technology and teaching and learning. He is on the board of CALSA, which is the, it stands for?
California Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators.
Got that one? So he's been really in touch with education. He's worked with education for years. And he's also worked with a lot of businesses and corporations to really see the link between what our students need to have in the classroom in order to be successful later on in life. So he has a lot of great insight to what the 21st century classroom can and should be like. And so I would love to introduce him, and it's a great timing because right after this, you guys are going to get a taste of some things that you guys get to incorporate in your classroom. Again, the coding and 3D printing. So without further ado.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. When I was in the classroom, so first 5 minutes I'll do credibility, so you guys think I'm off the street coming and talking to you that, you know, so got a little credibility. Second 5 minutes we'll get into some content, some meat. In the last 5 minutes we'll talk about some resources that we can hopefully provide you in 15 minutes. So first of all, when I was in the classroom, I always had a sponge activity. So I'm gonna do that with you real quick. We got 1 minute. And if you do this, whoever gets it to me first, this is a slightly used robotics invention system from Mindstorms, Lego Mindstorms. It's got all the stuff you need in there, except Arduino, so what you can have. It's about 250 bucks. Probably used right now, probably a little less than that. But so here's your task, warm-up activity. Use any device. You got 1 minute to take a photograph of yourself and tweet me. My handle is CalSA T Davis, First person who takes a photograph of themselves and sends it to me gets that. You got 1 minute. Go. If you want to play, play. If you don't want to play, that's fine too. If you guys are like me, if you guys are baby boomers, you guys already know what I'm talking about. Millennials, Gen X, maybe. Twitter. I want to show you why this is important. Can you bring up the Twitter site?
I don't give him hits.
Yeah, Kelsey T. Davis. So can you go to my site? Go to home. There you go. Okay, let's see who's up here first. Is that Margarita? Is that you? Two new tweets. Let's see who they are. Scroll down a little bit.
Are we at the right one? Am I?
No, I don't see any yet. Let's see who's come in there first. Let's figure.
You have to refresh.
Okay.
Do I have to refresh?
Yep.
Do I go to notifications?
Yeah, go there. All right. Come on. Huh?
Oh! I think Carrie Northam. Carrie was first.
Carrie, where's Carrie? Come on up, Carrie. Come on up. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. Use it well.
I don't share her voice.
And my daughter does this at school and she will die.
Very cool. Merry Christmas. Now, the reason why that's important that you should know about Twitter and think about it as in the classroom is because it's probably, in my opinion, probably the most influential professional learning community, or PLC, or professional growth program you can use for your group. Let me give you an example of this, which is really cool. Go back to the Twitter. Go back to the Twitter piece. Thanks, Tony. Go back to.
I lost it. Where'd it go?
Yeah, go back now. Go to my home. To me. Yeah, there you go. Now let's scroll down. Scroll down a little bit. I want to show you one example of great use of Twitter. Keep scrolling. Actually, go to. It should be at my home site. Where's my piece? Go click on me over here. Yeah, view my profile there. And then you want to scroll down because there's a great example of a 30-year veteran teacher who, for the first time, is using Twitter to videotape herself in an experience she's having in her school district that's stretching her to use technology. So hey, Maureen. Maureen and I taught together a long time ago. Anyhow, think of it as a tool that you could use to share best practices in a community of practice. And we'll talk more about that later. So scroll down, keep scrolling down. And you click on, keep going. Keep going. Yeah, I love that guy. This lady right here, click on that, play that if you can. More bandwidth, we need more bandwidth.
Look at their phones, pick them up, hold them in their hand, turn them around. And as we find issues, we change the design, change the material, change the process to
You like
that issue before it's in the hands of the customer.
Anyhow, I tell you what, let's move on because we only have a short amount of time. Let's you can go to my handle at Kelsey T. Davis and you see, and let's connect with me because I'll share a bunch of interesting things with you all too. So if you're not on Twitter, take a look at it. It's a tremendous tool for you to be using. Okay, let's go to back to the PowerPoint.
Was it still?
Yeah, it's still trying to download.
It's okay.
Yeah,
We'll give her nose a break.
Yeah. Okay, and then the first slide is going back to, this is, I want to show you roots because Maureen knows this. I grew up in National City, and that's my little house right there, my little chanta right there. 500 square feet, 7 people living in that. On Coolidge Avenue in National City, OT&C, if you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm a product of South Bay. Next slide. These are people that influenced me the most in my life so far. I want to share that with you. First of all, mis abuelitos, the Barajas family. They lived on 1524 Hoover Avenue, and they spoke no English. He was a migrant worker on his way over here. And basically, we had 18 aunts and uncles. You might know them, all around Chula Vista and South Bay, the Barajas family. Anyhow, my grandfather taught every one of those, my uncles, a trade. So whether it was an electrician, a plumber, they all did something. And he was my role model because I would go to him and ask him for advice. And this is a piece I miss about my family that we don't get anymore. He would tell me cuentos. You know, that's where I learned about La Llorona, and I learned about the cucuy and stuff like that, right? And it was really cool for me, but I missed that for my kids because we used to go to their house all the time. And my grandma always had a big pot of beans in there, always making tortillas, and that's where we kind of all hung out. And I kind of missed that for my kids. We don't do that anymore. My mother, and that's myself and my sister, very influential in my life. You know why? Because she made me feel loved, felt warmth and loved, and I could do anything in the world that I wanted to do. This man you all know. Worked for him a little bit out of high school with a couple of friends of mine. Got into the movement, did some work there. This guy here, Ned Wilson, my former high school biology teacher, sparked an interest in me in science and biology. So I owe him a lot because he got me into biology.
Yeah, we just retired.
Yeah, he just did. This kid here is a role model here for you locally. If you don't know him, his name is Matthew de la Peña. Check his name out. He grew up in Lincoln Acres. You know where that is? By Granger High, Junior High. He got a basketball scholarship at the University of Pacific. Went to Columbia University, prolific writer, written 2 books that really you should all read. Very cool for me. Hey, I'm a basketball guy. I love basketball. That's why you see Bill up there and Coach Wooden. Mexican white boy, which was me, because my name is Tom Davis, but my name is Tomas Aurelio Davis. So I'm a Mexican white boy. Patty Boy used to call me back in the day. And he, same kind of lifestyle. The other book he wrote was called Ball Don't Lie. So those are 2 books you should check out because they're really good for your adolescents, middle school, high school kids to read those 2 books, basketball, baseball, interesting. Mexican White Boy and Ball Don't Lie. Influential, grew up in National City, teaches at Columbia, lives in New York now. Elon Musk, how do you not love that guy? He's taken on probably the 2 biggest industries in the world, the U.S. auto industry and now NASA. Got a plan to go to Mars. I'm sure you heard about that. I love that guy. I have a Prius. I'm going to get it. I'm going to buy one of his cars when I can afford it sooner or later. Not by doing these things, though. And then, of course, Pyramid of Success. Coach Wooden, very influential for me growing up. Pyramid of Success. And Bill Walton and I played against each other in high school. I used to let him block my shot once in a while. You know, he's an idol, too, because he's in over 56 charities locally in San Diego. And he had a very bad stuttering problem when he was growing up, terrible stuttering problem. We used to make fun of him, but he overcame it with practice and determination and hard work. So he's very influential in my life too. Next slide, Tony. So here's a couple of things I'm gonna just kind of share with you. Is the belief that what if we believed technology is very important, but culture overrides that. I'm not going to use the word Trump, I didn't want to say that, but technology is very, very crucial for us to use in the classroom, but our culture is the most important thing. And I learned that by talking to Ed Hidalgo at Qualcomm at the Think a Bit Lab. He taught me that. Next slide. So what if we embrace change? And the point I'm making here is, and Maureen knows this, in our school at Sweetwater High School, we had people, great people, 30 years, same classroom, same school. Across the hall, 27 years, same classroom, same school. So it's hard not to let complacency and status quo beat you down. Even though in STEM, we're teaching innovation, change, adaptation, and evolution, aren't we? So why do you let the system beat you down? Got to fight that off. So compliance enforces the limits. We got to be compliant with standards and all that kind of stuff. But challenging them creates the future. Next slide. What if we taught kids and not just our subject area? What if we focused on the kids? What if we focused on what their needs were? Non-academic data that I learned from Ed. The use of, next slide, use of strong, thrively, strength finders, things that know the kid first. The things that I don't care about biology, I care about it, but I want to learn who you are so I can teach to you. That's the importance of, as I believe, we go into the future, as we start moving into the nano era, which we're going to call the nano era, where there are little pieces of little chips all over you, we can feed you information and multiple data points. We got to become more human. The more we get into the technology piece of it. So these are some things you should look at also, that the whole school takes, not just the kids, you take it, your leadership takes it. Change the culture of your school. That's more important than technology. Next slide. What if our curriculum, this is content area, we'll talk about this at the end, but what if we focused on providing answers to the 17 major challenges? You guys just saw probably this last week in the Global Citizen party they had in New York. But what if our curriculum really focused on some of these things? You know, and at the end of the day, it's project-based. Our kids, if we step back, they'll provide the answers for us. Challenge them with these kinds of thinking. Don't get stuck in your pacing guide. Don't get stuck in your book on page 37. Make your classes more interesting and challenging. Next slide. What if we focus on the National Academy of Engineering's Grand Challenges? These are all really huge things here. I'm sure there's a reference there for you to log on and check it out. But secure cyberspace is going to be a huge issue for every one of us. We need cyber people to be able to go out and figure these things. They're going to attack, it could attack and break down our whole system as we know it. But these are the things you can find at that website that are really important. How can you build in your curriculum to answer some of these questions your kids can start taking on? Next slide. Some of our classrooms still look like this, I swear to God. I can't believe it. So if we put that in the past and we looked at some other interesting things that you need to tell your leadership about, your principals and your leaders at the school district. What if we looked at schools that did this? It looked like that. Some are getting there. You know, you're going to say we have no money, blah, blah, blah. We have money. We can do it if we want. You guys got to start pushing leadership. That's the kind of classroom would be interested in me. Next slide. Or something like that. Look at this classroom. This is a science classroom. Wouldn't that be cool to have something like that where you have stations, the kids working together collaboratively, doing the things we've been talking about, setting up certain scenarios where kids can get information. Next slide. What if our schools had maker spaces with a purpose? Instead of just having a maker space that kids go in there and play, what if it was aligned to the Common Core standards in the CAST and the assessment, and all that stuff was built in backwards? In other words, purpose. Don't let kids go in there and play. Have a reason for them to go in there and do the maker space stuff. What if you put in, you know, Fab Labs and Think of It Labs and robotics and coding academies and have those places available on our campuses? Next slide. What if we thought about teaching writing through a new way by putting animation studios in our schools? Kids are going to have to write scripts, they got to do scaffolding, they got to storyboard, and then they build a product. Would that be cool? They don't even know they're doing writing. So an animation studio concept to teach writing concepts, and at the end of the day they have a cool product they can share on a Friday afternoon in the theater with popcorn, and kids can unveil and get an Oscar for their production. Would that be cool? Next thing. Rock and roll. This is very important because I was in a band at 14, little garage band. We were called the Gremlins. My dad gave me a set of drums, started playing it. The music is so important. People don't realize the connections to mathematics and social, emotional, about making connections. And if you can figure out, and I can get a beat going, and it's a wave, a harmonic, think about that translation into chemistry or even into electronics and engineering concepts. If there's patterns, we can identify patterns through music, and we can apply that to other areas. Think about the power of music in your classrooms. So what if we put rock and roll or music academies in our schools? Cool. Next slide. I'm working on this project now at a company out of Las Vegas called Indoor Farms of America. We're building a 7-foot aeroponic vertical growing system. So it's pretty cool. Oop. So what we're doing here is I've got 320 little plugs in there, and we're using coconut shell, the little medium, and a little germinating plant. We plug them in there with LED lights on the outside, and at the bottom here is a base, 50 gallons of water, and a little pumping system. So we're just misting the roots with vitaminized water. 30 days later, you have leafy lettuce. You could have tomatoes, strawberries. But think about that as a cool thing to do to teach sustainability and have those kids take the produce and maybe sell it at the farmer's market, or take it to your food service people. There's some laws with there we have to get through, but no problem. But you have the concept. So this is actually a gaming company. This is what their workplace looks like. So what if our classrooms kind of look like that? We did some simulation classrooms that look like that. Next slide. What could look like that? Next slide. What if we had gaming studios? Next slide. What if we had, think of it, labs? What if we had, what if you guys all became teacher designers? Not everybody wants to be content dividers, but some of you do. But what if you all thought about designing and creating your own curriculum? So here's some facts real quick on professional growth. What if you had like a choice, a menu that you could choose professionally to grow from? This is my opinion. What if you had a menu to say, I'm a little weak in earth science, I'm a biology guy, but I need to know more about that. What if I took a competency-based course around earth science and I got credit for it? You know, and I was, as a principal, maybe take a minimum of 2 of these courses to get a micro certification in that. It makes me more grow as a professional and respects me. I can't be top-down stuff in the district anymore. It's got to be you guys want to grow professionally. So what about that? Next slide. So teachability, this is from John Maxwell. It's really about intentional attitudes. Lifelong learners, you guys all know that. We should always be learning, every one of us, until we die. Cesar Chavez, when he died, prolific reader, had thousands of books around his bedside. Read more at the end of his life than ever before. Next slide. So if you became teachers and designers, here's some facts up there you can see. I won't read those to you, but the point is, people are starting to socialize more through media and sharing their practice in the community of practice. That's happening more and more. We're seeing that. We're looking for, communities. Next slide. So did you know, real quick, U.S. Department of Labor estimates that today's learner will have between 10 and 14 jobs by the time they're 38. Next slide. Top in-demand jobs barely existed 10 years ago. You can read those. Droid developer, data scientist, big data architect. Next slide. So what if we knew more about those jobs our students will have? So if you look down below, Samsung's going to put $1.2 billion in Internet of Things in startups and research in the U.S. So what if we knew, if you go on to LinkedIn, all the different things that are popping up around the Internet of Things? Next slide. So there's 137 Amazon Internet of jobs posted right now in the United States for Internet of Things. So what if we knew more about that? Next slide. 75 billion devices by 2020. So last thing, a couple of more things. Huge disconnect between what the school leadership thinks and with what the employers want. Next slide. So this is important. Superintendents rank problem solving as number 1. Employers see it as number 8 on their list. What's most important for employers is problem identification, not problem solving. Next slide. So here's the 3 things that are important now. Because we already have the access to the internet. We already have tons of information. So this is what we have to be prolific at. Identifying problems people don't know they have yet. Curating information, that's a huge thing. And interpreting information when people are confused, they don't get it. Those should be the things that we're teaching our kids. Next slide. So what if we develop, this is right off this Global Citizen page, you can go there and check it out. What if in our curriculum, at the end of the day, our products, when kids graduated from our schools, they had all these things as part of their belief system? What if that happened? The reason why I'm putting what ifs is because people ask me, what would you do if we were back in the classroom today? These are some of the things I would be looking at. I want a kid to come out, a kid, ready to go and challenge the global challenges and be able to do things globally. Next slide. So what if, I'm sorry for all the text, but this is for me to kind of remind me to tell you this stuff, but you can get this online. So engagement. What if kids had a reason for coming to school? What if you engage them in a really cool project and they wanted to come to school either to play music or to get in your class, whatever? What if we built these environments for them so they would want to come to school? What if we identified early and often our entrepreneurs in our classrooms through some sort of non-academic data? So like give those kids more resources and tools to stay in STEM, to come back to the community, to create jobs, which people want, and lead to less despair and hopelessness and prosperity and peace in the region. What if we thought about that on a bigger scale? So what if we explored innovative technologies on our campuses? What if you guys all asked your principals to have a room, an R&D room, like most companies have, to go experiment with things? Your own R&D center, your own innovation center at your campus. Next slide. First time in history, 4 generations. I'm a boomer. How many? Most of you are millennials in here, I'm sure. A few Generation Xers.
Yeah.
But look at how these guys. Look at how these how they communicate. Next slide. Traditionalists, boomers. So you have to understand that. You have to understand that when we're educating these kids, right? They all want you to text them. Next slide. So here's the thing about millennials. How many millennials do we have in here? We got 1, 2, not that many. Wow, okay. So millennials, if our leaders understood the needs of millennial teachers, they describe you as unattached. Next slide. Connected. You guys are all growing up with technology. You know how to use the stuff. Next slide. Unconstrained. You don't accept the old adage. That's the way it's always been done. You're going to push for change. And idealistic. Next slide.
I love how contradictory those 4 words are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So here's another slide for you that talks about 6 main traits around STEM education in 2026. And we mentioned it before. Communities of practice, right? Sharing best practices. Learning activities that encourage kids to play and take risks. Projects that are interdisciplinary that can solve global problems. Flexible learning spaces. Performance assessments that are innovative. They're different than, that's why I like the cast a little bit, because there's a listening component to that. And messaging around STEM, PR. Okay, next slide. So takeaways, real quick. Don't let complacency and status quo bring you down. Don't let the system bring you down. Continue to fight for innovation as a teacher leader in your school. That's probably the most important thing I'm going to share with you today. Don't let the system beat you down. Don't get tired and complacent. Be creative and innovative. Be a role model for all your kids. Continue to make connections with kids. They come to school more traumatized than ever. You don't even know what these kids are coming to school with. I thought I had it bad. These kids need you to be there for them. Make connections. Look them in the eye. Connect with them. Don't just teach your stuff and go home at 3. Connect with kids. Get our school boards, our superintendents and principals to give us, free up time and space. Forget about this compliance stuff. I understand that, but we got to start talking about systems, structures, and processes at a higher level to free up time to do what you guys need to do. And then finally, fight through the politics and the day-to-day drama to remember why you chose this most noblest of professions. Thank you very much. Have a great week. Good luck with the grant. You guys get a hold of me anyway. I'm here. Text me. Thank you.
Shannon Chamberlain or LaShondra or what was it? D'Angelo. I don't know what Cynthia called me this morning. Some weird name, but I'm Shannon. And this is Art Lopez, who, if you don't know Art Lopez, he teaches computer science at Sweetwater High, and he is also our White House liaison. So he has been to the White House a couple of times now. And he works on the President's Committee for Computer Science. So I don't know the official title.
Yeah, it's called I'm a working member for the Educational Initiative for Computer Science for All. And I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really grateful that Shannon and Tony asked me to come and share some things with you. There's a huge push by the National Science Foundation to do what's called C+STEM. And I'll present that, and I hope that you will find it interesting. And hopefully you may be interested in doing some research and maybe engaging some of the things that I'm going to be talking to you about.
So yeah, Art's amazing. I love Art because him and I we don't always agree. Sometimes we have theoretical differences, but he's a good guy, and I love him, and he knows his time. So, all right. So we're going to talk to you a little bit today about coding, but we're going to do it within the aspect of computational thinking. So computer science and science really overlaps in the area, and I'm driving from here. I'm sorry, all you guys, but the mouse is over here, so I'm sorry if your back is to me. Computer science and science overlaps in this area called computational thinking. which is this analytic approach to problem solving, designing systems, and understanding human behaviors. So if you look at kind of some of the aspects of computational thinking, it's problem solving, conceptualization and abstraction, modeling and simulations. This all sounds very familiar, right, to us science teachers. So you can see where the overlap is. I, specifically myself, as a science teacher, I'm really interested in this idea of agent-based modeling. So I'm going to share some of that with you today. Art's going to get, I think, into a little bit of a wider view of what you can do with coding in your science classes. And Art, take it away.
Okay. So as we well know, computing affects every field. It's just inherent in that our it's inherent because our digital economies today are driven by computing technologies, and basically the STEM field is also driven by computing. They go hand in hand. We can't get away from it. So the idea is that we want to prepare our kids for their future. Whatever endeavors they're going to pursue, computing has to be a part of it. Now, how do we engage our kids to understand computing to be part of the STEM field? Well, there's proposals that are going to be placed forward by the National Science Foundation on how we can incorporate this. At the same time, there's also the realization that we don't want to put more on your plates, okay? Because that can be very, very difficult. So what we want to do is just expose you, make you think about this, and maybe if you generate an interest, we were hoping that we can go ahead and engage and offer training, thinking about how we can incorporate this. Because ultimately, if we want our kids to be successful, computing and computational thinking has to be part of that process. So, my colleagues I work with the University of California, San Diego Educational Studies Department, the Computer Science Department, also the San Diego Computer Center, and they have clearly described to us that today's all scientific innovation, their underpinnings are driven by computing and computing technologies. And so what I try to tell people very clearly that computer science and computational thinking is not keyboarding, it's not presentation software, it's not spreadsheets, it's not PowerPoint presentations. But it involves from 7 big ideas. The main big idea is creativity and curiosity. When you raise that within your children, that's going to lead them to learning. And that's the great power of computing. It allows people to be very creative. You've got to think of an idea and how you're going to make your computer actually get conceptualized and perform that idea on the computer itself. It's also driven by abstraction, explaining how, basically managing complexity and organizing it in such a way that it's hidden behind coding. So I use abstraction with my kids a lot, for example, with language. If I ask you to think about a chair, they actually have an image of what a chair is. But when we start talking about abstraction, say, well, you're hiding all the complexity of how you're going to describe the chair. Does it have 3 legs, 4 legs, materials? How's it constructed? You don't describe any of that. That's being abstracted. So abstraction is a really huge idea in computing, and I think it does also as well in science. Obviously, we do a lot of data information, and we also use, inherently, any computer program you create is an algorithm, step-by-step series of instructions to tell the computer to perform a specific task. We discussed about global impact, and I think as scientists, you would find this very interesting for your kids because you can create a lot of projects that will analyze the benefits and also harmful effects of computing within the STEM field. We also have programming, so how to create programs, and we also talk about the internet. So see, these are some of the big ideas that we incorporate while we're teaching computer science. And computational thinking, I think it lends itself very clearly into the science field as well. So, what we recognize when we're trying to teach these courses, and I've been working a lot with the National Science Foundation, these are some skill sets that we teach our kids. Analysis, problem solving, how to communicate, how to collaborate, how to be creative, how to organize themselves. All of these are aspects of computational thinking. So this whole computer science education was non-existent 11 years ago. We had 5 years ago in this district 0 computer science classes taught, which I think is criminal, but I'm trying to make that change right now. So here's my heroine, Dr. Janice Cooney, and she is the program director for the computer science education for the NSF. She wrote 2 papers that clearly outline the importance of computer science education and why we need to integrate and embed it in high school education. One is lacking, it's non-existent, we're trying to keep that right now. But also, very importantly, at least for me, it was an inequity access issue. A student of mine 5 years ago came up to me and asked me, Mr. Lopez, why does Torrey Pines High School, why does La Jolla High School have computer science courses and we don't? That's a really good question. And that embarked me on this journey to make that change. And I said, you know what, this is unfair to our kids. Computer science leads arguably to some of our highest paying jobs in the world. I want to make things kind of change. So the number of young women and ethnically diverse students in CS courses are abysmal. By the way, in the science field, it's pretty abysmal as well. It's not good. So I think when we try to do these kinds of educational endeavors, I think what we're doing is we're really engaging all our kids to try to get into the STEM field, not just CS. And so this is what I really wanted to talk to you about. The National Science Foundation C+STEM program. These are programs, there's a ton of money coming down the pipeline for science in regards to embedding computer science principles within the science courses. And the national, if you, and I'm going to ask you to go on your computers and look at this for a few minutes. The STEM plus C, if you're interested in gaining some of this money, we can write proposals where you guys can go ahead and get some of that money and embed it within your science courses. There is, I know these funding opportunities that exist, and I've talked to the actual NSF officers, and they've told me and guided me on what we need to do in order to get those kinds of money. And also, there's a ton of resources for CS embedded in STEM education. There's these 2 websites, the Community for Advancing Discovery Research and Education. It's called, I believe, K-A-D-R-E, Cadre. I hope I got that right. And there's also Stellar, STEM Learning and Research Stellar, where you guys can actually, if you're interested in doing some research, you can go ahead and get funded and do this. So why don't you guys turn on your computers, and if you, let's see, can you do me a favor, Shannon? Can you click on this link right here?
This one?
Yes. And I'm gonna direct you to this website. Can I hold on for a second? Have you guys ever used Jot Once before?
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys can go to Jot Once, you just create, if you have access to the computer, I hope. I'll go to Jot Once, and if you've never used this before, I'll be honest with you, I went to an Apple training for about 8 hours. This is the best thing I picked up during the 8 hours. I'm not kidding. I was like, wow, this is so cool. I use this every day with my kids. There's another one, there's like, now there's 4 or 5 of these things, but this is the one I'm always using. I forget the names of the other one. It's like a messenger. If you guys go to jotwants.com and then you guys type in the word giant, it'll give you the link. So if you ever want your kids to access quickly a URL and or a whatever it is, a shared document in Google that has a URL, Jot Once will allow you to do this. You just have to go click create new Jot, and you guys can do that. So once you're in jotwants.com, then just type in the word giant and retrieve the message, and then click on the link. And you will see the website itself. And if you scroll down, I mean, you can read that at your own leisure. But at the very, I think near the bottom of the page is that CS embedded for STEM, and that has links to the different websites I just showed you. And it'll go through and describe to you what those different opportunities have for you. So they have a scalable game design. Who teaches middle school science in here? This is, I have not dived into this yet. Okay, I'm hoping you will for me. And if you're interested in this, I'm hoping that I'll give you my my email address, and you guys will contact me and let me know if you're interested in maybe doing this. But you guys can do scalable game design and reinventing computer science in public schools, but they also they also offer a lot of information on how to embed science topics within your classroom with game design. The other one that I was looking at was computational thinking in STEM. I think this is from Northwestern University, and here is another great website that talks about how to. I think you. If I'm not sure, but computational thinking, Shannon. I mean, you're better describing that than I am. In science, it's important, right? It's they kind of.
There's a lot of overlap. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I think all of you guys teach analysis,
Yep.
data.
Yeah. Modeling, abstraction. Yeah.
Yeah, all of they're like they mesh like this. Computer science and science does. I think I can say that. They have lessons in here that you guys can think about incorporating. But I'm not sure of the programming language that's being used, and I'll talk to you guys about that in a few minutes. But I just wanted to expose to you on things that are currently being done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think I spoke with Shannon and Tony. We don't want to add more to your plate. We want this to be a very simple process for you maybe to think about implementing in your classrooms. There's another link on that page that's called Cadre, and this one supports and connects research developers to K-12 STEM education. And there's some really great stuff in here for science teachers to think of how to embed computational thinking. And I think that was really great that you said that, Shannon. This is about computational thinking. You know, not computer science per se. It's utilizing computer science as a tool, but I think it's more about computational thinking. And there's a description about that. And then I think if you go back to computer science, that tab, Shannon, way at the top. There's also the STEM Learning and Research Center called Stellar. And I believe there's a program here called iTest that shows, it tells you how it can help you how to get computer science embedded within your science courses. Does anybody have any questions? Do you guys find this helpful?
Yes.
Useful?
Yeah.
Yes? I'm so happy you're saying that. I was really nervous last night. I've been wanting to do this for a really, really long time because I just think computer science can be a very helpful tool in your science courses. I'll be honest, I don't know if you know this or not, but kids love computing. Okay, it's part of who they are. They grow up playing games. They love using their phones. I have found that this really gets your kids engaged. It's academically rigorous. It raises curiosity. They want to learn more. And I think that's the power of computing. And I am stretched I was going to say that I can come by and help you, but I'm kind of stretched in getting to see us. But I'm hoping to get Shannon and have her obviously be a point person for us to get computer science embedded in our science courses in our district. I hope that's okay.
Yeah. So I can tell you guys from personal experience, and we're going to go over some specific programs you can look at. But I am lucky enough to teach coding and science, and I have kids in my coding class who are failing science and who are my best coders. So as much as I like to think that my science is like super engaging, and of course everyone loves it, right? Because I'm amazing, and how could you not love my class? There are kids out there that just don't engage for whatever reason. I have kids who fail every class but get an A in my class, and they're my best coders. So coding is not for everyone. It is very challenging and academically rigorous, but it is another way to try to pull those kids in that you're struggling with. It's very hands-on, it's very curiosity-based. My kids figured out how to hack Achieve 3000. That was awesome. They're like, hey, Miss Chamberlain, look what you taught us to do. I'm like, no.
That was Art Lopez.
But I mean, those are my kids who have never done an Achieve 3000 article. But they figured out how to hack the website.
Now they're the high
scores. Yeah, now they have 90,000 points.
I have found over the past 5 years since I started this, I teach. This is the first year that they made the computer science principles course and advanced placement course. I've been a pilot instructor for the College Board for the past 4 years, and I work with them in a lot of different capacities. But what I love about the class is that I told the College Board, don't raise another barrier to our kids. They raise a lot of people raise barriers with the AP label. It really, I get upset because I think it should be open to any kid who has an interest. And what I love about the AP Computer Science Principles course is that I've clearly stated to everyone I talk to, there is no barriers. I take in anybody that has an interest. It's about equity access. I got 9th graders taking an AP class. I got kids with learning differences taking the class. I do not care. And what I've noticed is that I get lots of kids that have never taken an AP course before. I got kids that have straight D's and F's. The GPAs of 1.0 or lower. Okay? And this class, they get a C in. Some of my kids, this is the first time they ever get a C. That's hard to believe. But then they start realizing how important school is, and they want to continue computer science. I told them, you guys have to learn how to read, write, and do all the stuff you want to do this. And they start doing better in all their other classes. So I engage them to computationally think, and I think that's what this is about. It's not about computer science, but if you guys can get your kids to computationally think, they'll be more engaged in your science courses and wanting to learn. I really firmly believe that. I got to do research projects to back that up. But I think you will find that I gave you a starting point where you guys can start looking at this and investigating and seeing if it draws your interest. And I'm hoping to get you guys to maybe think about implementing this in the next couple of years. I'm going to continue on. Thank you, Shannon. There's a national effort, and there's a call to action by both the White House and Congress. There's many organizations that are involved in trying to get C+STEM. The College Board, for example, is now offering 2 different computer science courses. We have Exploring Computer Science. They have all these organizations. If you go to the next slide. But we also, what's really important is we have regional partners. We have UC San Diego. We have the San Diego Supercomputer Center. We have the National Science Foundation. They're all here to help us. They're going to be able to provide us training, curriculum, research. If you have an interest, they're going to be setting up programs for teachers like us to take these courses and say, how can we embed these kinds of computing science principles within the science courses that we teach, both high and middle schools. So, I think a real important piece here is why should you think about doing this, Well, why should all students learn C+STEM? Here's a statistic provided to me by the National Science Foundation. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. By the year 2020, there's going to be 9.2 million STEM jobs available. 4.6 million of those jobs are in computing alone. It dwarfs the market. But inherently, what's really important to remember is that STEM right now is being driven by computing and computing technologies. You really do need to understand some basics of computer science if you want to be successful within STEM. So, what kind of curricula can you use? Okay, so here are several things that I use because my kids have no computing background, and they've been doing projects for their science and math classes. I've been urging them, use what you have, your knowledge, to do stuff in those other classes. They use what's called drag and drop programming environments. We have Alice, which was designed by Carnegie Mellon for middle school students, and specifically young girls, but it is a full-blown programming environment. It's called an IDE, an integrated development environment. We have Scratch, which also uses drag and drop programming. We have pencilcode.net, which is really, really cool. It's fun to play with. We also have MIT App Inventor, allows you to create apps. I've seen kids from other parts of the country create like little apps on the weather, global climate change. It's really, really cool. And then you have Mod Minecraft and learn how to code. These are all different programs that will allow kids, and more importantly, us. Okay, I don't have a computer science background. I've taken one programming class in Fortran in 1979. I was I was totally disengaged. It was dehumanizing. Have you guys ever taken a programming class? It's dehumanizing. I remember I had punch cards. I'm really old. Okay, I had punch cards. I had to do Fortran. The night before my final, I had 1,000 cards. I dropped them. So that was my experience. I go, I don't want to do this. It was really hard. You make a wrong period. It's its own language. So what they figured out is these really difficult concepts become much easier to manage when you use these kinds of environments. So, for example, I teach with Alice. It's a 3D environment program. You guys go to alice.org, and they got a bunch of kids doing science projects with this. Like if you want them to do stuff, I'm not sure what you teach. I have no idea. But I've seen people do physics projects, chemistry projects. They do all kinds of really cool projects on here, and which I think was really fascinating.
You said alice.com?
Alice.org. .org. And by the way, we can make the slide deck available to everybody, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll make the slide deck.
It's already in the Canvas page.
So the slide deck with all the links are available to you, okay? This is the reason why I do it this way. If you notice, here's Java. It's syntactically challenging. It's very difficult. We don't want to make your lives difficult. We don't want you to learn how to program in Java. So what we do is learn how to do this. We just drag and drop blocks in here, press play, voila, our program runs. But what we find out is when kids learn it this way, they want to then go to this, okay? And then you can, have you guys ever heard of Python? Yeah, so Python it's not as difficult as Java, but again, when I start my kids creating stories on here, like I had a kid did a solar system project, and they actually did the whole solar system thing, narration, audio and stuff. It was really cool, and it was based on what he was learning she was learning in her science class. And then we used pencilcode.net, and they used some stuff in chemistry. They used a data sheet, and they did some really incredible stuff that I had no idea. That's what's great about this. The kids take ownership of their own learning. They start doing things where you're going, how did you do that? How cool is that? They're teaching you, And I think that's really empowering. Okay, and then the next one. So what I would propose to you is if computational thinking teaches kids how to think. Stephen Jobs had a quote that said, everybody in this country should learn how to program a computer because it teaches you how to think. And I really, really believe that. Not that I'm sure he has his own problems, but I think that statement is true. But we found that these kinds of courses are engaging, they're rigorous, they're fun and enjoyable for students, they really like doing it. They learn computing and computational thinking skills, and those are all the different skills that you have available to you. If you want, can you go to the next one, Shannon? There's this program here. Would you guys like to see pencilcode.net? Just so you can see how that environment is. Yeah. If you just go on, if you just create a new tab called pencilcode.net. All of these programs have tutorials. They're all over YouTube. Really, they're not difficult to pick up. And that program is pencilcode.net is a web-based program. You want me to start? I will stop now. Okay, no, I'm sorry, Shannon. You should have told me.
No.
Okay. Before I stop, can you go back just one? I will send you this link to this Wolfram Demonstrations project. If you get a chance, look at it. It has a huge series, but that language is syntactically zero. Okay. If you have any questions, you guys can reach me through arthur.lopez@newslearschools.org, and Shannon and Tony will give you my contact information.
Okay, I just want to, thank you, Art.
Thank you. Sure.
I just wanted to go over a couple of different places where you can find these amazing things. So, as I mentioned to you, I'm really interested in the agent-based modeling because I think it's the most applicable to the sciences that we do. So agent-based modeling is just a way for computers to model simulations and actions of autonomous agents with a view of assessing their effects on a system as a whole. So it includes things like game theory, predator-prey model, evolutionary processes, the things that students can't really see, right? Because you can't go out and kill 1,000 rabbits and see what's going to happen to the parents, right? You just can't do that. So computers can do that for them. So the one that I am the most familiar with is called Star Logo Nova, and Star Logo comes out of, do you remember which university? These all come out of universities, like big important places.
And all these presentations are on Google Drive?
They are, yeah. So they have a specific middle school curriculum called Project Guts, and it covers ecosystems, chemical reactions, and I think there's one on water as a shared resource. So again, these are all links, and so when you're looking at the presentation, you can go back and click on these things and it'll take you. But this is what it looks like. So basically what the kids do is they drag and drop code to create an environment, and then based on what they're trying to experiment with, they can change different things within the environment. So this one is a coevolution of giraffes and acacia trees. And the nice thing about Star Logo is there's a bunch of, if you don't want to get into the coding aspect of it with the kids, there's a bunch of already coded, there's a huge resource gallery. So you can go in, pick something that you want to do, like this is coevolution, they have a bunch for predator-prey, they have some really good ones for spread of disease. Chemical reactions, they also have good ones for chemical reactions. So you can go in and just have them use one that's already there. But the creativity piece of this comes because the kids will start playing with this, and then they'll wonder, well, what happens if I introduce like different species of giraffes? Or what happens if there's a drought and we have less acacia trees? So they can go in and program it to change whatever variables that they want, they're interested in studying. Python, Art already mentioned Python. Python's probably the most popular programming language right now, but it is a syntactical language. So I wanted to show you guys this Mesa is an agent-based modeling program that uses Python in a drag and drop format. So it's kind of nice because the kids, again, this is what Python looks like, which is really scary. But they can drag and drop blocks to set up their experiment to do whatever they want. And this is the Schelling experiment. Are you guys familiar with Schelling's work on racial segregation? So he had this idea that if you look at a neighborhood, it's segregated racially. His idea was that that wasn't because people were racists, right? There was other factors that had to do with that. So he looked at people's happiness factor, and people are most happy when they have more than 2 people that look like them living in their neighborhood. And because of that, if they have less than 2 people who look like them living in their neighborhood, they tend to move to a neighborhood where they do have 2 people who look like them, and that's what actually causes this racial segregation in neighborhoods. So it is an interesting experiment, and that's what it looks like. This is a brand new program, which I have not even had a chance to really look at. It's called Computational Thinking, Simulation, and Model Building, CTS Sim. And they have like 5 or 6 different programs that do different things. But the reason I like this one is it does a lot more with the physics aspects. I see Marie. The physics aspects of teaching science. So there's some pretty cool things in there for physics. And again, you can see this is a drag and drop program. So the kids just drop in what they want to test. Next. Okay, so we are going to give you a few minutes to play here, but I just wanted to include a couple of these quotes. So one of my other jobs, I have a stupid, crazy life. One of my other jobs is I work for U.S. University, as Carla calls it, my putt-putt job. It's this little putt-putt university, but I'm writing their STEM programs, for certificate programs for teachers. And one of the classes was technology and science. And so I ended up having to do all this research for that class. So I came across a couple of things that I really thought pertain to science, and that is that when students use agent-based modeling programs and simulations, they're able to develop explanations for complex systems because they can visualize the effect that an individual agent has on entire systems, right? So, and that makes sense, right? When we're talking about predator-prey models, or we're talking about evolution, we're talking about these huge, complicated complexes that have, or concepts that have all these tiny little ideas. It's really hard for kids to conceptualize. But if they can manipulate it and see what the effect of one change has on a huge system, it really does help them to kind of cement that conceptual understanding, and that's what the computers can do for us. And then this last one is what Art actually referred to, in that science is changing, science is evolving, and future generations of scientists have to be able to engage in computing to understand their work, to understand what they're doing. In your packet, I also gave you guys this article, which it was one of those things that went like it was a mind-blowing thing for me. So it's from the editor-in-chief of Wired. It's this one that says, the end of theory, the day-to-day loop makes the scientific method obsolete. And what he's talking about in this article is this idea of abstractions, and how by being able to use computers to do some of this mind work for us and abstract things out to a bigger level, we're realizing that some of our fundamental beliefs in science are actually not accurate, right? Like Newtonian physics, or the one he mentions in here is the idea of genetic inheritance, and that they're finding out now that the environment can actually affect your genetic code. So interesting. So I would just, if you get a chance to take a look at that, it was a pretty interesting article. Okay, so 5 minutes if you want to play on any of those websites, please do. All the ones I mentioned are free. That's the other beautiful part about computer science, is it's all open source, it's all free. So if they're trying to charge you, go find someone else who's free. There's really great stuff out there that's all available to you for nothing. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
So all these great resources you could bring to your classroom, I think we're kind of on the same position where Art was. We don't have this education. We don't have this background. So is there be opportunities and stuff to teach teachers who haven't grown up with computer science, so then the teachers can bring
I'm sure.
So that's one of the things. So Art is also the curriculum specialist for computer science in the district. So yes, if there is an interest, if there are people who want that training, I will be more than happy to work with Art and Tony on setting up professional development opportunities for you guys, because like I said, I'm lucky because I get to have a foot in both worlds, but not everyone has that opportunity. So yeah, be more than happy to do that.
I was kind of wondering why, in the United States, we don't have a credentialing process to teach computer science.
Yeah.
And my thing is that I took computer science. I was fortunate enough to have computer science when I was in high school. But yeah, it's just shocking to me that if you want to be at the forefront, get the people that are training, credentialed, teach something like, I know they have these programs like Alice, which I think are great, but I think that's where we're lacking personally. I think that's where I see the impediment.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because when I was doing all this research, there is a huge push to get computer science education into teaching credentialing programs, right? And so that credentialed teachers will be taking a class in computer science just like they take a class in health. So that's a huge push. Credentialing, you guys are lucky because you're science teachers, and if you're just trying to embed some stuff into your science class, you're fine. I have to take a whole other test because I teach coding, and I'm not supposed to be teaching coding because I'm a science teacher. So I have to go get my 5th credential so that I can keep teaching that. Yep, 5th credential, so I can keep teaching that class. But hopefully that's going to change. So I think that the government recognizes with the push to get computer science into all these different subjects, they're going to have to loosen up on those credentialing requirements.
Yeah. So just to give you a heads up, part of the grant that we're writing is to try to find ways to help incorporate computer science into both the math and science classes. So it's kind of like engineering with a computer science tweak to it. Now, the question I have, Shannon, in any of the GS1 lessons that you put in, does it have some computer science embedded into it?
Not yet.
Is there, okay, just thoughts.
Not yet.
Because I think for me as a teacher, I would love to just kind of see how it's infused in action. So if there's any insight.
There's definitely places for it. Like I know Project Guts, one of their, they have Project Guts goes, it's a terrible name. But it's through code.org. You guys are all familiar with Hour of Code? Yes. Same people who do Project Guts. And they have a whole series of curriculum on water and water resources. And that is that's our engineering project for GS1. So for the first semester. So there's definitely links and places where we can.
I would say also that actually I think Project Guts started first and Code came in, and I think make a partnership, but they're now looking at doing a block programming at the centralized point for them, which is really cool because it makes it easier for us to know how to do. And I told Shannon this morning, have you guys ever heard of Google's Exploring Computational Thinking? If you look, that's just one more thing that I think was kind of really cool. If you, do you need to keep going? I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Are you sure? Yeah, okay. So if you guys, I think this is really cool. If you just make a search for Google Exploring Computational Thinking, and you go to Exploring Computational Thinking, it has a ton of materials on different aspects of computational thinking, but it's based on the 7 big ideas in computer science, but also it has a lot of stuff. It uses Python as a language, but they have some just great videos. And for example, these little videos like using balloons and data to bring the internet to the world, and then they have finding photos using data and algorithms. But what I really liked was this one with data, because this lends itself directly to science and how they're preventing disasters or how to help when times of disasters. And Google has this big push with science in exploring computational thinking. So that's another great resource that you may possibly use.
So what I would encourage, I know we're running short on time, is the websites that you guys showed are really cool, especially the ones that you showed, Sharon, which were really science focused and able to embed in the science classroom. I would encourage you guys, when you guys have more planning time tomorrow, to just explore some of those websites more deeply and see how those may be value added in the project for
Shannon, are all these accounts free?
Yes.
Are these all free? Like, you have to make an account number, but are they free?
They're free.
Okay.
I wouldn't give you anything that wasn't free. So the question was, did I give you a handout with links? No. I gave you a paper article. That was the most paper I could do. But the PowerPoint slide is on Canvas, and it's in our Google Drive, and the links are all live on there. So So if you click on it, it'll take you to where you need to go. And then one other point I wanted to make before I let you guys go is that you can speak to this better than me, but there's this huge discrepancy in there's women in coding, right? There's like hardly any female coders. So I'm always telling my girls, like, if you're interested in coding, pick where you want to work, because they will hire you, because they're desperate. But you know what's interesting about that is my best coders are girls, always. So if my best coders are girls, and there's no girls in computer science, what is happening? Like, what is happening between the time that I see them in 7th grade and they're rocking this coding to the time they get out of college and they no longer have an interest in this? Like, something is going on there. And so, yeah.
Well,
so that's just it's an interesting link.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, you will have to go see how to print on a 3D printer. Woo-hoo!
504.
504.
No?
Yeah, right now.
Not Pacific Learning Disability.
No, and then we have that.
All right, so like I said, my name is Carrie Northam. I teach medical chemistry and medical physics here. This is my actual real classroom. So in any case, this is my contact info. If you ever need to get a hold of me, please do so. If you do decide to go ahead and try 3D printing, which I would really encourage everybody to do, you might want to be able to get a hold of me in case things don't go as planned, because sometimes that happens in technology. So anyway, my Gmail address is actually better. So a little bit about 3D printing. Raise your hand if you have any experience with 3D printing. All right, so do you guys have printers yourself, or you have one?
My wife does it just
Cool, okay. All right, so for those of you who have a little bit of experience, bear with me. I'm going to sort of start at the beginning so that everybody can sort of understand this process. Because sometimes I'll talk to people and I'll tell them that I 3D print stuff. And they're like, well, how does that happen? How do you make the paper do that? The answer is, it doesn't use paper, it uses a different medium. But in any case, so I'm going to start at the beginning and talk a little bit about the process and the way that it works. So in general, there are two types of 3D printing. There's what we call the fused deposition modeling, which uses a printer that looks generally something like this. You can see we have two of those printers right back here set up today. There's also a type of printing that's called stereolithography. And this uses resin gel, sort of like the gel that goes on fingernails, that's cured with UV light, and a laser. And these stereolithography printers can get much better resolution in the things that they print. They're also faster, but they are very, very expensive. And so basically for us in schools, at least at this point, unless you have some sort of funding coming from somewhere crazy, they're sort of out of our price range. So today we're going to be focusing here on fused deposition modeling, which is a printer that uses what we call filament. So 3D printing is called additive manufacturing, meaning that in normal types of manufacturing, they take something and they sort of cut away to leave the object that they're making. In 3D printing, you build up to make the object that you're interested in. And so it's a process of creating a 3D object from a computer-generated model. So this process has 3 steps: modeling, printing, and finishing. So before the object can be printed, a model has to be made. This can happen in a lot of different ways. So one way to do this is using CAD, computer-aided design. And here's an example of something that was made in CAD. And so this uses a program in order to generate this object. On the sort of more professional scale, our programs like SolidWorks, Autodesk has a whole suite of different CAD programs. Inventor is probably the most commonly used for this sort of thing. Yeah, it's free for us. SolidWorks, not so much, but SolidWorks is industry standard that most engineers actually use. But we can get a hold of Autodesk Inventor. You can download it for free as an educator, so that's good. But it is an actual industry sort of level CAD program.
Does it work on the iPad or desktop?
I'm sure it doesn't. But If those are a little bit beyond the scope of what you need to do, which for a lot of us in the applications we use in the classroom, that's really, really much more technical information than your student necessarily needs. A good place to start are places like SketchUp or Tinkercad. These do work on iPads. And they sort of work like Paint would work, where you can take a shape and you can make it whatever size you want, and you can pull it up, and there's already letters generated, numbers, you can put holes in things very easily. So these are both ones that I would really recommend, that if you're just getting your feet wet with trying a little bit of CAD in your classroom, for most of the things that we would be doing, these are going to work fine. If you're going to move to sort of like industry level, making things, that's when you need to know more about SolidWorks or Autodesk. But I'm going to tell you that if that's still scary to you, it's okay, you can still 3D print. So, other ways are scanners. A handheld scanner can be used to scan an object to replicate it. So if you already have an object and you want another one of those, you can take a handheld scanner, you can go around it 360 degrees, and it will actually generate the file for you. Our grant has purchased, I think, 2 of those. So if you'd like to try them, just talk to Tony and check them out. And so you're welcome to do that for as far as replication. But for replication, you have to already have the object that you want to make. You also have to realize you're going to lose a little bit of the detail when you scan something. But for a lot of things, it's great. Like, for instance, at my house, I just used a scanner this week because we have this particular cookie cutter that my kid likes her sandwiches to be cut, and it broke. It cracked because, it was plastic. So no problem, I just scanned it, printed a new one, no problem. Just as easy as that. So this is what a 3D scanner kind of looks like. Actually, the ones that we have are a little bit, this is an older one, so ours are a little bit smaller. And so here's an example of somebody's face where you can see that the image on the left is the actual picture versus the 3D model that was generated from the scanner. So, kind of creepy, right? But you might not even need to make a model at all, because somebody else might have already made a model of what you need. So it turns out that there's this whole maker movement. And when it comes to 3D design, many, many, many people are really kind of into this as a passion and as something that they do in their own free time. And they've already made models of lots and lots and lots and lots of other things. And so you might need to worry about trying to generate your own CAD model. You might already just be able to look online and find what you're looking for. So these are all sort of open source. Everybody, they put it up online with the intention that other people will use their files. They worked hard on making them, and usually it's for something small that they're doing like once, and they want their hard work to be able to be used lots of times. And so they put it up so that, especially for education, it's totally free to use, no problem.
Somebody shared a model of a 3D printable gun a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, there's lots of them. But, I mean, we'll talk about how well could a 3D printed gun work. Probably not that well.
Who sounds like a phenomenon.
Yeah. So just try Googling whatever you're looking for, and it might already exist, whatever you're trying to make. The format you're looking for is .stl. So .stl is the file format that 3D printers use to print. And so if you can find an STL file of something that you're looking for, go for it and print, you're good to go. A great place to start is this website called Thingiverse. So, anyway, I'm not worried about it. We'll just move on. I'll put a time to show it to you afterward. But Anyway, or I can show you over on our computers that are hooked up to the printers as well. You can choose something if you'd like to print. I've made a couple of, you get to collect things from Thingiverse that are applicable to what you want to do. So anyway, once you have your image, your STL file that you generated either by doing the CAD or just downloading from somewhere or scanning something, then the printer is going to do a couple of things. There's some software that runs the printers. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to slice your image. So slicing is exactly what it sounds like. So basically, you have this three-dimensional thing, and the printer has to figure out how to build that from the information that you have. And so how it works is by laying down thin layer after thin layer after thin layer until it eventually builds a three-dimensional object. So in order to do that, it has to slice your image into very thin layers so it knows how to lay down the filament. So this is sort of an example of what slicing looks like. You can see that. See, so this is your three-dimensional image here, right? And so this is what the slicing program does, is it decides where those slices are going to be made. When the printer actually lays down the filament, it lays them down first one way and then the opposite for straight. So that's sort of how that works. So filament is the way that printers work. To me, it always kind of looks like weed whacker line. I had a printer mess up this week, and so I have a lot of filament that's off the spool right now. So if you guys want to check it out, it comes in every color that you can imagine. So this is fluorescent yellow, green. But if you want to pass around, you can check it out. This filament that I'm giving you guys, that I'm passing right now, is ABS, and we're going to be talking about different filament types right now. So you can sort of see. So you want to choose the type of filament best suited to the object that you are making. So there's some decisions that you have to make before you set the printer to start printing. The most common types of filament are PLA and ABS. Like I said, this one right here that I'm passing around is ABS filament. But there are many other choices. You can print in carbon fiber. There are many filaments that have metal flakes sort of embedded in them. Even wood-infused filaments. I'm not sure why anybody would want to print with wood, but who knows? Yeah, it's recycled, but we're going to talk about so is PLA.
For the med pathway people, they're also printing biocompatible materials,
right?
Creating organs.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you can make a 3D printer that prints anything. They print houses with giant 3D printers that are basically essentially a crane that prints in either concrete or like a mud sort of mud straw mixture, like back to. But they can print a house. Yeah, they do. They print organs. With basically what they do is they have a sort of an infrastructure that they print in sort of a plasticky type material, and then they have a second nozzle that lays in cell types in there, and so it allows for the cells to grow in the media. They can print kidneys, no problem these days. They're printing hearts, and so it's really like we're at that level. Some organs obviously are going to be a lot easier to print than others. Livers are difficult, but it's something that a liver transplant is an incredibly difficult surgery, and so if we can get there, that's a pretty amazing thing. So like I said, as far as we're concerned, and in your classroom, you're probably either going to be printing PLA or ABS. By the way, these are different types. You might even hear about like 3D printed food. That's a different printer, right? So like you would print a house with one type of printer. You would print an organ with a very specific type of printer. If you're printing food, you're using a food printer. So you can't use the printers that we have here to print a dessert. Does that make sense? My kids ask me this all the time. They're like, ooh, can you print chocolate? I'm like, no, I cannot. But,
I saw a 3D pancake printer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can make it. They make 3D printers. I don't even know if a pancake printer is a real 3D printer because it can't 2D, yeah. Go up. It's 2D, but the idea, right? The idea.
They look cool.
Oh, have you ever seen the pancakes that have like bear faces?
They make like a pancake out of like the Eiffel Tower. It looks like the Eiffel Tower is a pancake.
Yeah. So anyway, but like I said, as far as we're concerned, for our intents and purposes, we're probably going to be printing either PLA or ABS, and so you should know why you would want to print with one versus the other. And so PLA stands for polylactic acid for us chemists in the room. And there are a lot of pros about PLA. It's plant-based. It's actually a cornstarch, modified cornstarch. So it is completely biodegradable. It's a green filament. So that's a good thing. It's easy to use. No heated bed. So some printers have a heated bed, other printers don't. So any printer pretty much can print PLA, but because it doesn't need a heated bed. It's simple to use. It gives you excellent detail. Prints come out very crisp, very shiny. Very little modification is needed after it comes off the printer. There are faster print time as well because it doesn't need to be as hot in order to print. So it doesn't take your printer as long to heat up and to get ready to go. It just starts right off. Some cons are that it's not waterproof. So you have a green filament made from cornstarch. You don't want to print a boat out of it. Your boat will take on water. So it is not waterproof. So it's not, if you're doing something that's going to be in water for a short period of time, fine, no problem, go for it. But if you're going to be printing something that is going to be exposed to water for a long time, this is not the filament to use. Also, it can warp at high temperatures. It does have a relatively low melting point, and so you don't want to use it on anything that's going to be exposed to a whole lot of heat. And it's less strong, so it's not quite as strong, also because of those same properties. The take-home message, though, is that you print with PLA unless you have a good reason to not print with PLA. It's easy to use. You can do it on any printer. Your prints are going to come out nice right off the bat. It's going to work well. For most of you who are just getting started with 3D printing in your classroom and you're trying to print up a prototype or something for the kids to do, PLA is probably going to be your go-to filament. That one's a little bit broken, the green one. So, but your go-to filament. Now, all these cons, if you have something that needs to utilize, needs to be in water, needs to be strong, then you're going to want to move on to ABS. So ABS is acrylonitrile butadiene styrene. So the pros are it's very sturdy. It's good for car and machine parts. I do robotics. If I was printing parts for a robot, you better believe I'm going to print it in ABS. It's waterproof because it's a true plastic. It's not a plant-based. It comes from oil, so it's not as good for the environment though. Has a high melting point, which means that it takes your prints longer to happen because it needs to stay at that really high temperature. Cons, not as eco-friendly. Like I said, it is actually an oil derivative, so it's not biodegradable. It's true plastic. It requires a heated bed for printing. You must use a printer that has a heated bed. It won't work. And it requires ventilation because you are actually melting plastic, so it does make it's not bad, but a little bit of fumes.
Do you do it in your hood?
I don't. Almost all printers have built-in ventilation. So, I mean, if you had an open source one that wasn't sort of enclosed, doing it in the hood would be a good place to do it, but most printers actually have fans built into them where they ventilate themselves. It is more difficult to print with, and so you might have to do some troubleshooting. Things might not go as planned the first time you try it. You just have to be a little bit flexible. It also often requires finishing. So we'll talk about finishing in a second, about what that entails. Something that you don't usually have to worry about with PLA, but with ABS sometimes you. Depends. Depends on how well calibrated your printer is too. If your calibration is really good, you might be okay to not. So the take-home message is you print with ABS if you need strength or water resistance, or if you have some really good reason. So, finishing. After the print's complete, you might want to fix minor imperfections to smooth out the layers. This is often done with sandpaper, files, and acetone. So, you don't need to do this if you're printing with PLA, but ABS, be careful on the acetone. A little goes a long way. A tiny bit on a rag is enough to smooth things out really well. So this is a good picture where you can see that right here we have the unfinished print as it came off the printer. You can see it in the layers. See how it kind of looks like a little bit furry? Versus this is the finished print that somebody just ran. Actually, acetone vapor is a really good way to do it. And so you just sort of put it in a container, and you just run the acetone up a little bit and keep it in a closed container, and just those vapors are enough to smooth the print.
Right there.
So what?
Serious, isn't it?
All this 3D printing stuff sounds interesting, but how does it apply to me? So, I did go through all of the different sort of classes that we teach in the grant. I apologize to the middle school people because I'm not as familiar with your standards. I'm sure there are many, many more ways to apply 3D printing to what you're doing, but I'm just not as familiar with your standards, so I'm going basically off of what was uploaded into the grants folder. So it looks to me like the GS1 folks are working on water filters. You could easily have kids use Tinkercad or something to help design parts for your water filters. Also, it looks like there's a lot of chemistry in your standards. If you do anything with crystals, these little crystal picks work great. Here, I printed one off. You guys want to see it? Aww. So that's a perfect size to sit right on top of a nice little beaker, and the crystals will grow. You put a supersaturated solution. The files, I have all of these files bookmarked, so if you want any of them, they have files for sodium chloride, borax, sugar, magnesium chloride, I believe, a bunch of copper sulfate, I believe they have. But anyway, I can share with you the files if you'd like. So if you guys want to check out, by the way, quick quiz. If you were printing crystal picks for your class, would you choose ABS or would you choose PLA?
ABS.
ABS, right. So this is printed in ABS, so you can sort of have a look at what, you know, anyway, if you want to pass around, here's a crystal pick I printed. So there's lots and lots and lots of other ways that you could use it. I'm just not as familiar with your standards. So for GS2, it looks to me like you're doing an entire, like, huge unit about impacts and craters and shield prototypes, like making a shield for a rover. You could use it, 3D printing extensively in many, many, many aspects of that unit. So kids who are making shield prototypes, absolutely. Models of craters, I actually forgot it up in my robotics room, but I printed this one for you guys. I'll bring it down if we have a break in between. I don't know if I'll have time. So this one right here is a crater from Mars. Gale. The Gale crater on Mars is what this is. And so there's actually tons and tons of sort of GPS data where anything that you can take a piece of GPS data and you can turn it into a 3D printing file very easily. So this is the actual Gale crater from Mars versus this is Meteor crater in Arizona. And so you can print and you can see what are the similarities and differences, where a kid can actually hold this. It's about this big. Hold this in their hand and they can see, why is the Mars crater so much flatter compared to a crater here on Earth? What's different about our planets? What might have, compare and contrast. There's tons and tons and tons of craters. There are moon craters. I would say that on Thingiverse there's probably 50 different files for different craters. So you could use it extensively and easily. And it's something different to look at a picture online versus to hold it in your hand and see, like, oh, look at, you see, like, this is where the impact happened. And it's a powerful tool, and the kids will remember it. And like I said, I wish I had remembered to bring the crater down, but on the break, I'll go grab it.
What percentage are you printing most of your things at?
I usually just print them at the setting that it automatically opens at. For these craters, they're pretty thin, and there's a lot of detail to them, so they're pretty close to 100%. There's not a whole lot of like empty space for fill in there. Right. So I believe my printer's set at 50. For biology, oh, the possibilities are endless. So I especially love this one because, we all have heart models, right? You have the classic heart model in your classroom that they can order from the biological supply or whatever, and it opens up. Well, this is a faulty heart. This is a slice of a faulty heart that was generated by somebody's MRI. So this is actual MRI data that they took a slice out of an MRI and printed out that section of the heart, so that kids can look at it and they can diagnose and they can say, what's wrong? There's something wrong with this heart. Can you figure out what's wrong with it? And they can hold it in their hands and they can look at the actual valves and they can see, oh, okay, well, it looks to me like this isn't in the place that it should be or whatever. So that's a pretty powerful thing too. As far as looking at you guys' lessons that you're designing, hand designs are huge. Like I said, my med physics is working on a ARM project right now. We're going to talk more about hands in a minute, but I have been spending a lot of my break printing hands. I sort of stopped printing hands because I started printing my students' hands. But this is an example of a file from online. of a working prosthetic hand. You can see that I haven't assembled all of my fingers yet because I stopped printing my hands to print their hands. But for the hand projects, there's a ton that you can do. If you want to check it out, you can pass it around, or if you guys want to just see some fingers.
Here's a finger.
Yeah, which finger? Good one. Some other things, they're talking about garbage patch cleanup prototypes. That would be something you could easily, indent your CAD, something like that, work on that. Build a better helmet. They're talking about doing, a lot of these are things that I also will be working on in my med physics class. It's kind of interesting looking at it from the same topic from two different sides. It's really, really well suited for something like that. One of the ones that I found on Thingiverse that I thought I loved it, was this one. There are a lot of things that you 3D print that are manipulatives, that are made for kids to actually hold in their hands and to move and to see how they work. I loved this one. This is a sodium potassium pump, an ion pump, and so you can actually, it actually moves. So you can see it comes together, and you can see it's got ATP down here because it's haptic transport, and it's really kind of cool how the different, you have to put ions in like a puzzle for it to fit together, and then it releases them. Very cool. Also models, there are like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of biology models. One of the ones that I liked best was build a DNA strand, where you actually take all of the different bases and they will only fit together in a certain way, and the kids can actually put it together like a puzzle and continue on building their stranded DNA. So I think that's a pretty cool one too. For chemistry, we talked about water striders in our group. I think that you could very easily 3D print an actual water strider out of some sort of PLA or ABS to actually float for yourself and to see what you could do to get it to work. Oh, sorry, that sodium potassium pump must have somehow stayed in my oops. Anyway, but solar steel parts. We're going to be building solar steel. Same thing. Definitely can design parts for that. I use this to show molecular and crystalline structures in my class all the time. So here's some examples of ones that I actually have in my room all the time. This is the crystalline structure of a diamond, which is, by the way, these things I'm showing you right now are all purely carbon, made of only carbon. So this is the crystalline structure of a diamond, and you can actually see, if you hold it the right way, the hexagons that are in there, right? And you can compare that to, this is graphite, and so we can talk about why pencil lead works the way that it does. The sheets of the graphite, you can see how those sheets lay up against each other. Versus, this is a buckyball, which is a kind of, it happens, but not that commonly, but it's kind of cool. You can see that all of the carbons, the way that they like to bond with one another. And then I just printed this one. This is a new one. This is graphene. So I don't know if you've heard a lot about graphene, but graphene is a very thin layer of carbon. Yeah. It's going to change our world. And so you can have them see what all of these have in common versus what they're different. And it's different to be able to hold it in your hand than to be able to just look at it on the screen. So if you guys want to pass around my carbons, you can. It's carbon. All of these are printed in, what do you think I printed those in? PLA, right. Printed in PLA. No reason to use the ABS. Also, the Vesper shapes, there you can print off all of the little models of the different, what all of them look like, so that they can sort of have something to like hold in their hand, almost like a dice, and they can sort of see like by moving it around. Also orbitals, I know that at least for my kids, talking about orbitals is always something that they have a really hard time wrapping their mind around, like what's an S, what does an S look like, what does a P look like, D, F orbitals, right? You can actually print those, and so, well, I mean, there's a lot of them. It's not one file, like separately, but in any case, that's one of those things that the kids have a really hard time like looking at the screen and going like, I don't understand how that's what's going on in an atom, and this is something that they can actually hold in their hand and go, okay, I sort of see it now, how these things all fit together. Also, another really cool one that I saw is there's a file on Thingiverse for building a spiral galvanic battery where you wrap magnesium ribbon around as one of yours, and then you also use copper. And you can make it, because the pieces fit together, you can make the spiral, you put it in a weak vinegar solution. You can make it as long as you want, and you can actually power things off of your battery. And so it's a little better than the old lemon battery if we're talking about redox equations, which I know we don't really do so much anymore, but it's still super cool. We do talk about changing energy from one type to another, and so this is a great example of that. Physics. Oh my gosh, physics. I just found, when I was preparing for this, there's a new file up on Thingiverse that's called Blackboard Physics. And what it literally is everything you could ever need to teach physics, the magnets to your blackboard. So you have to actually buy the magnets separately and put them into your prints. But I don't know if you guys can see, but here this is lever, this is gears, this is a pendulum, this is a pulley, this is projectile motion, this is conservation of energy like a marble run. So all of these things, you just stick them on your board while you're teaching it. And there's probably 50 files in that particular thing on the website. So you could use that to teach almost every aspect of physics. Like I said, my class is doing a prosthetic arm project right now. Another thing that I'm going to be doing with my med physics kids is we're doing an MRI machine model. So we can print out the actual structure of an MRI machine, what it actually looks like, and then we're going to make an electromagnet by wrapping coils of wire and generating a circuit through it. So we can actually make a magnetic field and measure it. And so that's something that I'll be doing with my kids later this year. There are so many different ways to talk about converting from one form of energy to another. Mousetrap cars, wind turbines, pop boats. Not the whole boat, but this is part of, I reprinted it. Guess why I reprinted it? What do you think I printed it in the first time? I printed it in PLA, and then I was like, why did I do that? And so then I reprinted the whole of the boat in ABS. So this is the whole of the boat, but it's a pretty cool thing where you actually put a little candle in and it uses steam. It's a steam engine that makes the boat chug along. So if you guys want to see my boat, play with it. Egg drop designs. I think this brings us to a whole new level of egg drop designs if we're going to do the classic sort of physics thing. One slide that I forgot to make is something that applies to all of us, which is lab equipment. So this whole open source movement really, really, really is a game changer. In our class, in our school we have a medical pathway. Our biotech teacher here he came from industry, he has a PhD in biotechnology, and the level of things he wants to do with his students are really a lot higher than what we have funding for. And so I actually wound up getting one donated, so I didn't finish making it, but he wanted to shake in an incubator so that he could grow cell cultures in a liquid medium instead of on plates. And so you can actually 3D print all of the parts just by the motors. A shaken incubator is probably at least a $2,000 piece of equipment. You can print the parts for it for $3. Buy some motors. Maybe the motors wind up sending you back $40 for the electrical components. Put a little Arduino in there, and you have a shaken incubator, and you just saved yourself literally thousands of dollars. There's entire websites that are devoted to do-it-yourself lab equipment. So things from all the way down to you can actually print off a spectrophotometer that works off of your cell phone. You just print a box, you put your phone in there, and it will work as a spec for you. And so it's insane the level of things that you can print.
Do you want to point out the Maker Faire this weekend?
Yes, that's a good. So yeah, there is Maker Faire this weekend. I'll be there. You should be there too. Haley will be there. Anyway, Maker Faire, if you don't know what it is at Balboa Park. It closes down the entire park. It's in pretty much every single museum and all of the walkways between them. Costs, I think, $20 to go to for the tickets.
Well worth it.
But it's well worth it. And you get to make all sorts of stuff. I brought my kids last year and they had a blast. They learned how to solder. My then 4-year-old was soldering, which I was a little on, but hey, she lived through the experience. But in any case, yeah, Maker Faire I'd highly recommend. There will be tons of 3D printers at Maker Faire, and they will let you play with their stuff. That's the cool thing about Maker Faire, is that the whole thing is designed to be hands-on. I don't know if my AC is off. It feels super hot here. Oh, and this cannon right here was actually designed by I have one with me, by one of my former students. No, it says it's on.
It's just yeah, okay.
But in any case, if you want to play the cannon, you can do that too. A student did that for projectile motion. It has different angle settings. And so the last thing I was going to talk about before we actually go to the printers and see what's going on with them is enabling the future, which is something somebody talked about hands before in the libraries. And at every public library has 3D printers that are available for the public to use. So there's this site, Enabling the Future, and apparently, I don't know if my computer is gonna, maybe I'll try closing down PowerPoint and see if I can get it to open through there. But the end of the story is, what Enabling the Future is it's about printing 3D printed hands for people who need them and sending them out to them. So I'm working on turning my robotics room possibly into a makerspace, and we're going to be working through our medical pathway to make hands and to send them out to people who need them. My mom is a double amputee, both of her legs are amputated, so people who need prosthetics are kind of near and dear to my heart, and this is something that I think is an amazing, powerful thing that we can do to actually directly help the people around us. And so that's about that. Let me see if I can get that video. Prosthetics are really expensive. And so unfortunately there are a lot of people who just don't have access. So the hand that I passed parts around came from their site, so that's one of their hand files. Less than $40 in parts to print a hand. It is fully articulated and it can give somebody use of it. So. Yay. All right, so Melissa, thank you for being patient. Did you send me the files? All right. So what I was going to do, I do have my school laptops hooked up to the small printer over there is a DaVinci Junior. That one is actually my personal printer. They only print in PLA, but that thing is a little workhorse. It always works. I love that thing. It's my sort of go-to for day-to-day stuff. For most of you guys, if you're getting your feet wet with 3D printing, if you're interested in just giving it a try, I'd really recommend a printer like that. Our Grant is going to be buying several of those so that you can check them out and bring them to your... Yeah, that printer is really cheap. As far as 3D printers go, you can buy one for about a little less than $300. So, so really, like, that technology it's getting less and less expensive. Over here we have a Pro. This one prints in a variety of filaments. It does PLA, ABS, but it is more difficult to use. It's also, as you can see, a lot less portable. So what I would recommend, if you are... We did buy 2 of those. One of them shipped to us with a couple of issues, and so right now it's not working as well as I'd like it to, so I'm going to keep it to the one that's working really well. But in any case, my advice is, if you're just getting started but you need to print something in ABS, if you send the file to me, I will be happy to print it for you, and I will get you your object in a timely manner, rather than try to move the big printers around because they lose their calibration every time you move them. And the little ones do fine. They can move. They're light. I mean, it looks kind of big, but if you pick it up, it's mostly empty space, so it's really, really not heavy at all. The big ones involve a lot more electronic components because they have heated beds, a lot of different things involved, and those puppies are big and heavy and they're hard to calibrate. And so if you want to print something and you need it to be in ABS, I'm happy to do any printing that you might need. Just email me the file. If it's an STL file, I will print your object and I will get it back to you as soon as possible. So I do want to show you guys how we go ahead and set things to print. I'm going to print Melissa's files on this one right now.
But it's your laptop. It's
No,
not
no,
the
no,
district.
that's the district laptop.
Oh,
I didn't have any trouble with it.
lucky you.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would have expected myself to have trouble with it.
So you just downloaded it for free?
But I just
Click
downloaded it and it worked, so I'm not asking questions.
Okay.
So maybe you should try to download it real quick before they stop that.
Okay.
But for right now, I didn't have any trouble with it. Same brand, but this one is the DaVinci Junior. So this just uses their.
We wouldn't do that one because we're setting it to you.
Right, exactly.
Right,
Don't
okay.
put the pro software on yours because.
You know what we'll do is Carrie can write all this up for us, and then we'll send it out to everybody with details.
There does have to be, you do have to have a login. Maybe we should just make a login for the ESP grant for everybody to use because it's not like it matters how many devices you download things to.
So Carrie,
The other really nice thing about XYZ, the company that makes these printers, is they actually have XYZ Maker, which is sort of like Tinkercad or sort of thing where you can actually make it in their program, and then you can just open it straight from their program. And it'll go directly to their printers, no problem. And it's totally free. Everything is free. So none of these programs cost money. Anyway, so I'm going to print Melissa's file right now. Hopefully technology is going to let me. So all I did is she just emailed me her files. She's making, like I said, a prosthetic arm. She sent it to me in different parts. Usually you do have to print things in separate parts. So she sent me her file that has her fingers on it. So all I did was I downloaded her file. Now I'm going to open it. And when I open it, you can see that it automatically goes to the software. I don't have to do anything. I'll just, as long as software's on your computer, it opens.
It's so funny.
That works. Yep. So all I did was I went into their little menu right here, the scale menu, and I changed it to 80%. And I'm going to keep, oops, let's undo that. See, if it's too big, it'll tell you. So I'm going to put it to 80. Then all I do here, it's not working, what's going on? I think I went too far back. Let's just open this ABS, it thinks it is yes. And we hit print. So you can see that it's slicing right now.
Goes with your necklace.
And it's probably going to take a little while to slice your image because it's a complicated one.
And then we could four separate
One of them has a part that really has
Then we got
I don't know.
There's another thing to know, you guys. Usually the program will generate them themselves, but you might have to put supports under things because gravity still works, even in a 3D printer. So if you're trying to print something over empty space, it'll fall. So you have to set it to, it'll make supports for you so that that doesn't happen and they break out afterwards.
Oh, so it's like if you want to make a cup, you do it that way. And then
What?
if you want to make like a cup or something.
Oh, a cup will print without supports.
Oh, okay, so you can make something with a cap.
Well, I mean, a cup, you print it this way from the bottom and you would build up. So it'll just lay it on, as long as it has something to support on it. So like for instance, like see the D&E model I have over there? Those bridges fall. So you don't have